Countdown Till Christmas is brought to you by Princess Grams. Personalized, magical, musical greetings from your favorite characters. Learn more and send one at princessgrams.com. Well, hello. We're so glad you've come back to see us today. Aren't we, Sasha? And I hope you're as excited as I am to decorate, sing, and share another story. Well, are you ready to find out what our Advent calendar has for us today? All right, should I set you up here, Sasha? Let's see. Oh, today's surprise comes from Canada. It's this beautiful maple leaf. And I love how shiny it is, the colors and this gold around the edges. Why don't we put it here? Well, this leaf makes me think of a Canadian Christmas tradition from Toronto, a special parade. I bet you've seen a parade before. Maybe you've watched the big Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade that happens in New York City. Well, nearly 20 years before that parade started, Toronto hosted the very first Santa Claus parade in the world. It started in 1905 and originally had only one float, one with Santa writing on it. Children were excited to see Santa and liked walking along with the float, and the parade began to grow. Now it is televised and includes more than 25 floats and 2,000 people. That makes Toronto's Santa Claus Parade one of the oldest and largest parades in the world. Well, Canada has another tradition that I love because it involves the giving spirit of the Christmas season. In Nova Scotia, which is a province in northeastern Canada, they are famous for their Christmas trees. And do you know what they do with the biggest and best Christmas tree they find? Well, every year, they send their best tree as a gift to the city of Boston to thank them for helping Halifax when an accident destroyed part of that city in 1917. Doesn't that sound like a great show of Christmas spirit? Well, most people in Canada speak English or French, so for today, why don't we practice wishing people a Merry Christmas by singing? And I bet you remember the song we're going to sing today. We learned it during our first days together. We wish you a Merry Christmas. And I thought we could sing that and also learn the second verse today. It's very easy. The lyrics are, "Now bring us some figgy pudding. Oh, bring some out here." Now, have you ever had figgy pudding? It's a very old British dish, kind of like cake. And one recipe from the 1300s, that's during the medieval times, says that some of the ingredients are figs, raisins, almonds, ginger, and honey. So in this verse, we're asking for some cake. Maybe as a reward for our song. So we sing, "Now bring us some figgy pudding," which you say 3 times, and then, "Oh, bring some out here." So the way we're going to sing the song today is one verse of "We wish you a Merry Christmas," one verse of "Good tidings we bring to you and your kin," and one verse with our new words, "Now bring us some figgy pudding." Are you ready to try the whole song together? Okay. We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin, good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. Now bring us some figgy pudding, now bring us some figgy pudding, now bring us some figgy pudding, oh bring some out here. That was great. Thank you for singing with me again today. Well, tomorrow we'll be working on a new song, and as a sneak preview, if you have any jingle bells at home, why don't you bring them with you tomorrow? But for now, It's time for our story of the day, and it's called The Philanthropist's Christmas by James Weber Linn. And a philanthropist is someone who gives away a lot of money to good causes to help people. Well, we're going to begin a little bit of the way into the story. So what's happened before this is that the philanthropist, Mr. Carter, is in kind of a bad mood. He's lost his little dog recently, and he's upset. And he was just very cross with his secretary. And we're going to pick up when Mr. Carter goes out for a walk. Mr. Carter, meanwhile, was making his way slowly down the snowy avenue upon his accustomed walk. The walk, however, was dull today, for Skittles, his little terrier, was not with him to add interest and excitement. Mr. Carter had found Skittles in the country a year and a half before. Skittles, then a puppy, was at the time in a most undignified and undesirable position, stuck in a drain tile and unable either to advance or to retreat. Mr. Carter had shoved him forward after a heroic struggle, whereupon Skittles had licked his hand. Something in the little dog's eye, or his action, had induced the rich philanthropist to bargain for him and buy him at a cost of $50. Thereafter, Skittles became his daily companion, his chief distraction, and finally, the apple of his eye. Skittles was of no known parentage, hardly of any known breed, but he suited Mr. Carter. But now Skittles had disappeared. He had learned the trick of slipping free from his collar. One morning, the great front doors had been left open for 2 minutes while the hallway was aired. Skittles must have slipped down the marble steps unseen and dodged round the corner. At all events, he had vanished, and although the whole police force of the city had been roused to secure his return, it was aroused in vain, and for 3 weeks, therefore, a small, straight, white-bearded man in a fur overcoat had walked in mournful irritation alone. He stood upon a corner uncertainly. One way led to the park, and this he usually took. But today he did not want to go to the park. It was too reminiscent of Skittles. He looked the other way. Down there, if one went far enough, lay slums. And Mr. Carter hated the sight of slums. They always made him miserable and discontented. With all his money and his philanthropy, was there still necessity for such misery in the world? Worse still came the intrusive question at times. Had all his money anything to do with the creation of this misery? He owned no tenements. He paid good wages in every factory. He had given sums such as few men have given in the history of philanthropy. Still, there were the slums. However, the worst slums lay some distance off, and he finally turned his back on the park and walked on. It was the day before Christmas. You saw it in people's faces. You saw it in the holly wreaths that hung in the windows. You saw it, even as you passed the splendid, forbidding houses on the avenue, in the green that here and there banked massive doors. But most of all, you saw it in the shops. Up here, the shops were smallish and chiefly of the provision variety, so there was no bewildering display of gifts. But there were Christmas trees everywhere, of all sizes. It was astonishing how many people in that neighborhood seemed to favor the old-fashioned idea of a tree. Mr. Carter looked at them with his irritation softening. If they made him feel a trifle more lonely, they allowed him to feel also a trifle less responsible. For after all, it was a fairly happy world. At this moment, he perceived a curious phenomenon a short distance before him. Another Christmas tree, but one which moved apparently of its own volition along the sidewalk. As Mr. Carter overtook it, he saw that it was borne, or dragged rather, by a small boy who wore a bright red flannel cap and mittens of the same peculiar material. As Mr. Carter looked down at him, he looked up at Mr. Carter and spoke cheerfully, Going my way, mister?" "Why," said the philanthropist, somewhat taken aback, "I was." "Mind dragging this a little way?" asked the boy confidently. "My hands is cold." "Won't you enjoy it more if you manage to take it home by yourself?" "Oh, it ain't for me," said the boy. "Your employer," said the philanthropist severely, "is certainly careless if he allows his trees to be delivered in this fashion." "I ain't delivering it either," said the boy. "This is Bill's tree." "Who is Bill?" "He's a feller with a back that's no good." "Is he your brother?" "No." "Take the tree a little way, will you, while I warm myself?" The philanthropist accepted the burden. He did not know why. The boy released, ran forward, jumped up and down, slapped his red flannel mittens on his legs, and then ran back again. After repeating these maneuvers 2 or 3 times, he returned to where the old gentleman stood holding the tree. "Thanks," he said. "Say, mister, you look like Santa Claus yourself, standing by the tree with your fur cap and your coat. I bet you don't have to run to keep warm, eh?" There was a high admiration in his look. Suddenly, his eyes sparkled with an inspiration. "Say, mister," he cried, "will you do something for me? Come into Bill's. He only lives a block from here, and just let him see you. He's only a kid, and he'll think he's seen Santa Claus, sure. We can tell him you're so busy tomorrow you have to go to lots of places today. You won't have to give him anything. We're looking out for that. Bill got hurt in the summer, and he's been in bed ever since. So we are giving him a Christmas, tree and all. He gets a bunch of things, an air gun, and a train that goes around when you wind her up. They're great." "You boys are doing this?" "Well, it's our club at the settlement, and, of course, Miss Gray thought of it, and she's given Bill the train. Come along, mister." But Mr. Carter declined. "All right," said the boy. "I guess what with Pete and all, Bill will have Christmas enough." "Who is Pete?" "Bill's dog. He's had him 3 weeks now. The best little pup you ever saw." A dog which Bill had had 3 weeks, and in a neighborhood not a quarter of a mile from the avenue. It was 3 weeks since Skittles had disappeared. That this dog was Skittles was, of course, most improbable. And yet the philanthropist was ready to grasp at any clue which might lead to the lost terrier. "How did Bill get this dog?" he demanded. "I found him myself. Some kids had tin-canned him, and he came into our entry. He licked my hand and then sat up on his hind legs. Somebody taught him that, you know. I thought right away, here's a dog for Bill. And I took him over there and fed him, and they kept him in Bill's room 2 or 3 days so he shouldn't get scared again and run off. And now he won't leave Bill for anybody. Of course, he ain't much of a dog, Pete ain't," he added. "He's just a pup, but he's mighty friendly." "Boy," said Mr. Carter, "I guess I'll just go round and—" He was about to add, "have a look at that dog," but fearful of raising suspicion, he ended, "and see Bill." The tenements to which the boy led him were of brick and reasonably clean. Nearly every window showed some sign of Christmas. The tree-bearer led the way into a dark hall, up one flight, Mr. Carter assisting with the tree, and down another dark hall to a door on which he knocked. "Here's the tree," said the boy in a loud whisper. "Is Bill's door shut?" Mr. Carter stepped forward out of the darkness. "I beg your pardon, madam," he said. "I met this young man in the street, and he asked me to come here and see a playmate of his, who is, I understand, an invalid. But if I'm intruding—" "Come in," said the woman heartily, throwing the door open. "Bill will be glad to see you, sir." The philanthropist stepped inside. The room was decently furnished and clean. There was a sewing machine in the corner, and in both the windows hung wreaths of holly. Between the windows was a cleared space where evidently the tree, when decorated, was to stand. "Are all the things here?" eagerly demanded the tree-bearer. "They're all here, Jimmy," answered Mrs. Bailey. "The candy just came." "Say," cried the boy, pulling off his red flannel mittens to blow on his fingers, "won't it be great? But now Bill's got to see Santa Claus. I'll just go in and tell him, and then when I holler, mister, you come on in and pretend you're Santa Claus. And with incredible celerity, the boy opened the door and at the opposite end of the room disappeared. Well, we're going to have to end our story here today, but tomorrow we'll find out what happens with Bill, with our stand-in Santa Claus, and with the dog. We'll find out if it's Skittles or if it's a different dog, and what Mr. Carter will do. Why don't we end our time together today with another Christmas carol? And this one comes from the Provence region in France. It's called Un flambeau, Jeannette, Isabelle, or in English, Bring a torch, Jeannette, Isabella. And Jeannette and Isabelle are two milkmaids who discover the Holy Family in the stable. And they sing this song to tell the other people in their village about what they found. So if you know it, I'm going to sing it in French. And if you know it, why don't you sing it with me? And if not, I hope you still enjoy it. Un flambeau, Jeannette, Isabelle, un flambeau, courons au berceau. C'est Jésus, bonne gens du hameau. Le Christ est né, Marie appelle. Ah, 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 que la mère est belle. Ah, 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 que l'enfant est beau. Well, thank you so much for coming back to see me today. I'm looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. That not only encourages me, it also makes a big difference to my channel and helps others find videos they would enjoy too. Wishing you a joyful season and a happy day. I'll see you tomorrow.